Hey friend, this is episode number 582 of the And So podcast with Taylor Bradford. Let's get to it. Boss Girl Creative presents And So with Taylor Bradford, business and life musings from a successful serial entrepreneur. Each week, you will hear Taylor spill the tea on all things business, life, relationships, health, and everything in between. But don't worry, each week also includes a business nugget that will help you stay on course. And now a throwback to 3-year-old Taylor who inspired all of this.
And so.
Oh my goodness, welcome to episode number 582. I'm your host, Taylor Bradford. Thank you so much for being here. I am struggling with allergies. I say that every week, I think. I don't know what is currently in season that is making my allergies go haywire, but lots of allergies. All right, let's dive into what's been going on in my world for the last week. In the garden, I got some more corn planted. Not a full row, but I got 1/8 of a row, and then I still need to get more corn planted. I also need to re-weed, do more weeding. Lots of weeding needs to be done. So hopefully I can get some of that done in the next couple of days before we leave out for Colorado. I pulled out a row of green beans and I got it reseeded because I would really love some more green beans before we hit first frost. And then I harvested my first big watermelons and they were delicious. Actually, I haven't cut into all of them, but the ones I have been amazing. I'm pumped that I think I now know how to know when the watermelon is ready to harvest. All right, what's been going on with the house? My trim is being installed and my new tile team or my new tile sub has started. So looking forward to seeing that stuff move along. Waiting on my cabinets to come in. I think most of them are done. Probably not the kitchen island, but most of them should be done. And yeah, I'm waiting on that to happen. Let's find out what I finished book-wise. So I got 4 finished. Lost Hills by Lee Goldberg. This is Eve Ronan, number 1, 5 stars. Good Grief by Sarah Goodman Confino, 3 stars. View from the East Wing by Jill Biden, 3 stars. And Bone Canyon, Eve Ronan, number 2, 5 stars by Lee Goldberg. I'm going to read a couple of those just to see if any of them tickle your fancy. I'm going to start with Lost Hills, which is a new series that I picked up by Lee Goldberg. And again, 5 stars. A video of Deputy Eve Ronan's off-duty arrest of an abusive movie star goes viral, turning her into a popular hero at a time when the Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department is plagued by scandal. The sheriff, desperate for more positive press, makes Eve the youngest female homicide detective in the department's history. Now Eve, with a lot to learn and resented by her colleagues, has to justify her new badge. Her chance comes when she and her burned-out, soon-to-retire partner are called to the blood-splattered home of a missing single mother and her 2 kids. The horrific carnage screams multiple murder, but there are no corpses. Eve has to rely on her instincts and tenacity to find the bodies and capture the vicious killer, all while battling her own insecurities and mounting pressure from the media, her bosses, and the bereaved family. It's a deadly ordeal that will either prove her skills or totally destroy her. Good Grief by Sarah Goodman Confino. I read her previous book, I think it was last week, called Off the Record, which I absolutely adored, but this one just didn't have the same pizzazz as last week's book. But I'm going to just briefly read it to you. A mother and daughter-in-law. To move on, one of them will have to move out in a hopeful and hilarious novel about widowhood and family friction by the best-selling author of Don't Forget to Write. It is 1963, 2 years since Barbara Feldman's husband died. Raising 2 kids, she's finally emerging from her cocoon of grief. Not yet a butterfly, but she's anxious to spread her wings. Then one day, her mother-in-law, Ruth, shows up on her doorstep with 5 suitcases, expecting a room of her own with a suitable mattress. Abrasive and stuck in her ways, yet well-meaning, Mother Ruth arrives without warning to help with the children. How can Barbara say no to a woman who is not only a widow herself, but also a grieving mother? As Ruth's prickly visit turns from days to weeks to what seems like forever, Barbara realizes Ruth has got to go. Soon enough, something tells Barbara that Ruth is trying to do the same for her. At least they're finding common ground, helping each other to move forward, even if it is in the most unpredictable ways 2 totally different women ever imagined. And then my book club read Jill Biden's View from the East Wing, her memoir. Here's what it says. A novelist once wrote, "There are stories one must tell and years when one must tell them." Jill Biden's time to discuss her 4 years in the White House is now. Jill Biden became First Lady at a complicated moment in U.S. history at the height of the COVID-19 pandemic and in the shadow of the January 6th insurrection. These were the circumstances under which she set up office in the East Wing, where she hit the ground running. Throughout her husband's presidency, Jill remained a tireless advocate for her causes, including women's health, military families, vaccine awareness, cancer initiatives, and education. She made history as the first ever First Lady to hold an outside job while her husband was in office, continuing to work as a professor at a nearby community college. Yet all the while, she saw herself as an ordinary woman living an extraordinary life. In View from the East Wing, Jill shares her White House experiences for the first time in her own words. She reflects on the Biden presidency and its impact on her family. She brings you behind the scenes from Camp David to Air Force One, from grading papers in the Rose Garden to witnessing the abrupt end of her husband's bid for re-election. This is the story of a woman dedicated to her roles as a wife, mother, grandmother, teacher, and First Lady of the United States. I'm giving this one 3 stars. I was actually thinking there would be a lot more depth in the actual book, which made it not as memorable as probably it could have been, even in her own words. I mean, that's why you write a memoir, right? I just felt like there was not a lot of depth for writing this particular memoir and also titling it Views from the East Wing. Anyways, there you have it. That is what I read. Let's dive into the first segment of the week. Unhinged comments from people on the internet. So this week got a little juicy with strangers on the internet. We're going to hear from John, Alexander, Susan, Belinda, Jose, Steph, Dawn, and Susan. So first up is John. So 1 inch is a lot, ladies. Alexander wrote, "I'm not reading your stupid caption. I'm here to watch videos, not read a book." Susan says, "Nice, can't read a bleep thing." Jose said, "An inch of rain means an inch everywhere the rain has touched, not just the bucket she claims. An inch is actually a very good amount of water if distributed correctly. I can go full force with the hose, give it the inch, and the plant will barely drink as it's already drained away." So then I had to explain to Jose what I actually meant by what I said, which he failed to get, which was actually in very clear terms. Stephanie says, "Depends on where you live. This is not entirely true." Stephanie, I think you need to go back and reread what I wrote, ma'am. Dawn yelled at me. He has some all caps. "These are African marigolds and don't deter like small French marigolds." Dawn, sir, no need for shouting. The only varieties that I grow from seed are French marigolds, and they do come in different sizes. My seeds are from Johnny's and Baker Creek. Belinda, not at all, ... Not at all what, Belinda? They don't work for you, ? I'm so confused. Susan wrote a bizarre one. "Not everyone can afford to water plants, unfortunately. Any tips on alternative methods to keep my hostas green?" Susan, I don't understand this comment. You have to pay for water one way or the other unless you have the space to have a rain catching system. Then you could use that water. Oyas are another option to help you water, but you still need the water or the rain, and both versions are going to cost money. I was way confused by the comment. And that wraps up Unhinged Comments. And diving into the next segment, Search Bar Confessions. And here's what I Googled this past week. Stock tank river float. I actually saw somebody doing a river float in a stock tank, like a cylinder, a circle stock tank. And I was so confused. How is it floating? So I had to go Google. Which potato type do you hill? Jelly roll and Bunny XO divorce. Cajun seasoning recipe. Harvesting watermelon. Orange creamsicle Gatorade. How much juice can you get from 2 oranges? Standard wheelchair height. The Pagosa Airport. And a cargo trailer roof vent. And that's what I Googled this week. And that wraps up this week's Search Bar Confessions. And it's time for the business nugget, which we are going to keep moving through the series of what am I supposed to do next in business, but we're like diving in to each individual step. So now we're at step number 2, which is strengthening the path between attention and revenue. So a lot of business owners are working incredibly hard to get noticed, which is kind of what we talked about last week, about posting more, trying new platforms, chasing reach, and looking for new ways to grow their audience. But attention by itself doesn't build a sustainable business. Someone can watch your reel or watch your YouTube video, read your blog post, or visit your website in some capacity and still have absolutely no idea what they're supposed to do next. Where do they go buy something from you? Where do they get the information from you? And the problem may not be that you need more people. The problem may be that the people already paying attention cannot clearly see the path from interested to connected to customer. So last week, I wanted you to identify what was already creating attention, trust, and revenue in your business. And this week, we're going to be examining what happens between those 3 things. And with attention, we kind of see how to measure that because we can see views, followers, downloads, impressions, shares, and likes. And because we can see those numbers, it's easy to believe growing them should be the priority. So we end up telling ourselves, I need more followers, I need to go viral, I need more watch time, I need more people on my website, I need to post more often. But more people seeing your business does not automatically mean more people understand it. It does not mean they know what you sell. It does not mean they know why they need it. And it does not mean they know what their next step should be. So we've become really good at trying to get people's attention, but I don't think we've become equally good at knowing what to do once we have their actual attention. So the question is not only how do I get more people to notice me, but it's also what happens after they notice me. So attention is the beginning of the customer journey, but it's not the entire journey. Someone discovering your content may be valuable to you, but discovery alone does not tell you whether they are the right person, whether they understand what you do, whether they trust you, whether they know what you offer or can recognize their own problem, whether they are ready to actually take action, buy the thing, download the thing, whether you have given them an action to take. You can have a growing audience and a stagnant business at the same time, and you can also have a smaller audience with a very clear path that creates consistent sales. This is why I turned off my follower ads. I had a very quick, relatively speaking, 5.5 months, relatively quick intake of a cold audience to my Instagram account. But I was struggling with getting them to connect further with me beyond that. Like they had to take multiple steps to get to that point, but then getting them quote unquote trained to come back daily to see what it is that I'm talking about, I felt a big disconnect. So I shut down those ads so now I can work on getting them to convert better. So here's an important distinction. There are at least 3 different results your content might produce, attention being one of them. Someone stops and actually notices you. But then there can also be connection. Someone chooses to stay connected through your email list, your Instagram account, your community, your website, or another deeper channel. And then there's conversion. Someone takes a meaningful action, which may be buying, booking, applying, registering, or responding in some capacity. Visibility gives someone the opportunity to discover you. Clarity gives them a reason to keep moving. So I have a question for you. Are you measuring how many people see your content, or are you also paying attention to what they do next? So now it's time to trace the path your customer is currently taking. I want to ask you these questions, and I want you to imagine discovering your business as a complete stranger. Like if you were to just see you out in the wild of the interwebs, I want you to imagine what it is like to discover you. So a potential customer may see a social media post, become interested in the topic, visit the profile, read the bio, click the link, arrive on a website or a landing page, decide whether to join, browse, buy, or leave. At every step of those things, there is an opportunity for confusion. So here are the things to ask yourself. Does the content connect to the business? Does the profile clearly explain what you help people do? Is there an obvious next step? Does the link lead to what the content promised? Is the landing page clear? Does the person understand the problem being solved? Can they tell which offer is right for them if you have multiples? Is the call to action specific? And does the follow-up continue the same conversation? So imagine you publish content about one specific business problem. The person interested clicks through and sees 7 unrelated links, 3 different offers, an outdated free resource, a homepage that talks mainly about you, and no obvious connection to the post that brought them there. You did the hard part, you earned their click, but then the path became unclear. Every time your potential customer has to stop and figure out what you want them to do, you increase the chance that they will do nothing. That does not mean your business needs to become overly simplistic. It just means the next step should be easy to recognize. So here's the missing middle. Many businesses have content and an offer, but very little connecting the two. And this is what we get to assuming, and assuming is bad, right? Assume, what does that mean? We assume that because someone follows us, the person will naturally understand what we sell and eventually decide to buy it. But there's a missing middle. Helping people recognize the actual problem, showing why the problem matters, explaining your approach, demonstrating your expertise, answering objections, sharing examples of proof, helping someone understand the available solution, inviting them to take a smaller step before purchasing, following up after they express interest. So a person rarely moves directly from, I enjoyed this post, to, I'm ready to spend money. They may need to move through several smaller realizations. I have this problem. This problem is costing me something. I want to solve it. I trust this person's approach. This particular offer may help me. I understand what I will receive. I believe it is worth the investment. I know what to do next. If you counted every single one of those, it is 8 micro steps to get between I enjoyed this post and I'm ready to spend money. Your content, your emails, your sales pages, your offers should help people move through that process. And it's not about manipulating someone into buying. It's about giving them enough clarity to make an informed decision, one of those 8 micro steps to get there. People should not have to assemble the value of your business like a puzzle. The next part of this is making sure to connect if you offer something for free and something paid, that they belong together in the journey. Sometimes your content can perform well because it attracts people who are interested in a particular topic, but not necessarily interested in the thing that you actually sell. And that can produce impressive numbers without meaningful business movement, and that is what I was experiencing. So I want you to ask yourself, does your content attract the same person your offer is designed for? Does the content address problems related to the paid solution? Is the free resource a logical next step? Does the free resource prepare someone for the paid offer? Is the offer solving the next layer of the problem? And do all of the pieces feel like separate ideas? Suppose someone creates highly entertaining or broadly inspirational content, but sells a very specific technical service. The content may attract attention, but the audience may not understand the connection to the actual service that the person sells. It doesn't mean every post must be a sales post. It just means the overall body of the content should help people understand what you know, what you believe, who you help, what problem you solve, and what they can do next. Your content does not have to constantly sell, but it should consistently support the business you are trying to build. So then let's talk about next steps, or too many next steps, because too many next steps can be just as bad as no next steps. Business owners sometimes believe that giving people more choices creates more opportunity, but too many choices will create hesitation or can create hesitation. So you may be telling people to download the freebie, listen to your podcast, join a community, book a call, read your blog, watch your YouTube, buy one of your 5 offers, and follow you somewhere else, all at the same time. The individual options may be good, but there's no priority, and that is where the 5 ones come in and why I've been focused on Instagram personally. So ask yourself, what is the main next step for a new person? What is the next step for someone already familiar with you? What is the next step for someone ready to buy? Are those paths clear, or are you putting every available option in front of everyone? You don't necessarily need only one offer, but you do need to know which offer or action belongs at each point in your customer's journey. A clear path does not mean you only have one destination. It means people can tell which direction makes sense for them. All right, the next part of this is I want you to stop blaming your offer before actually examining your path. When an offer does not sell, we often assume the offer is wrong, the price is wrong, nobody wants it, we need to create something else, or we need a larger audience. But before you get to that conclusion, I want you to examine whether people are consistently reaching the offer. How often are you talking about it? Are you speaking to the problem it solves? Is there a natural invitation from your content? Are people clicking through? Does the sales page continue that same message? Are you following up with interested people? Have enough qualified people actually seen your offer? Do they understand why it is the logical next step? You cannot accurately judge the strength of your offer when the path leading to it is weak, inconsistent, or practically invisible. An offer cannot convert people who never clearly encounter it. So it may still need some improvement, and you may need to diagnose the correct problem that moves them down the path. So here's your path audit. Choose one piece of content, one audience entry point, or one offer. So pick one of the 3. Don't audit your entire business at once. Start with one of those discovery points, whether it's Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, YouTube, Google search, a referral, your actual website, or an in-person event. What attracted the person's attention? Then I want you to identify the promised next step. What are you inviting them to do? Follow you? Subscribe to you? Reply? Visit? Buy? Book? Register? Is that invitation specific and connected to your content? Check the link in my bio is technically an instruction, but it doesn't always communicate why someone should click. And then I want you to follow the link yourself. Pretend you know nothing about your actual business and ask yourself, does the destination match what I expected? Is the benefit immediately clear? Can I tell what to do? Is anything outdated or broken? Is there an unnecessary friction? Am I being given too many options? And if you cannot do this objectively for yourself, go find somebody that you sort of know, you're sort of connected to, but they don't really buy from you. They're not like your ideal customer, and have them do this and have them tell you these questions. Give the answers to these questions. And then once you have that feedback, I want you to examine what happens next. So after someone subscribes or follows or downloads or clicks or buys, do they receive what was promised? Is there a follow-up? Does that follow-up deepen the original conversation? Are they introduced to the relevant offer? And does the path suddenly stop? And then I want you to remove one point of confusion. Improve one thing. Either strengthen your profile description, create a clearer call to action, reduce the number of competing links, connect the free resource to the paid offer, update your landing page, add a welcome email, mention the offer more consistently, clarify who the offer is for, repair a broken or outdated step. A better path is often built through a series of small clarifications, not one massive funnel overhaul. And that's important. So more attention can be helpful. Going viral can be helpful. But more attention poured into a confusing path actually creates more people who briefly notice you and then disappear. So before you decide that you need more followers, more views, another platform, more content, a new offer, I want you to look at your paths that already exist and choose one common way people discover your business and follow the path all the way through. Does every step make the next step clearer? And then fix the first place where the answer is no. Your business may not need a larger audience right now. It may just need a clear way for the audience you already have to move forward. Thank you so much for listening to this week's episode. I'll be back next week with the third thing in what do I do next in my business? And until then, I hope you have a great rest of your week.
Let's go.
And like my 3-year-old self said, that is all for this week. Friendly reminder to rate and review my show wherever you are listening. And last but not least, I'd love to hear from you. Leave me an audio message at bossgirlcreative.com/speak. I would love to hear your takeaways, ideas for upcoming episode topics, and your feedback. Thank you again for listening to this week's episode. And until next time, I hope you have a great rest of this one.